So it's 16 times as wide as it is 9 times tall.
Well, it's 16 units wide and 9 units high. If that helps. Okay, hello Friday morning, and hello visitors in the chat room. Hello visitors in our green room. Uh, First time, this has been talked about a long time. We've never done it per se. We've done a lot of it, but never done it as a show itself. I want to spend some time today helping new Twitter users avoid some of walk their way through the minefield of Twitter because we've been told, or you have been told, by the editors and the publishers and the agents that you need platform. So we want to help you get platform. We even want to provide a platform. One of them being, right here. I want to say welcome to those of you that have joined us in the chat room. And what we'll do, we're kind of still taking people in, but we do have a real patriot and brother in Christ standing by in our green room, Glenn Terrell. And Glenn, gee, you came out of nowhere. I forget how we ran across each other. But back in those days, your idea of trying to move the needle out there and have a little influence and platform out there was begging newspapers to write a letter to the editor and get it published that way. Tell us a little bit about that history.
Well, the way I fell in with you, I was talking with another Twitter person, and this person, I don't remember was a man or a woman, but she said it sounds to me like what you are trying to do is what Mark Pricek has already done, and she gave me your phone number and how to get a hold of you, and I did, and lo and behold, I found out that you had in the previous years you had already built what I wanted to build,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't capable of building it anyway. So I was tickled to death to find that you had already done the heavy lifting, and most of what I wanted already existed there at PJNet. Um, and in the beginning, I was a letter to the editor writer. I had a website that somebody else had built for me. I couldn't build it. Um, but we had the names of newspapers, and their location. And so we could send a letter to the editor of all the newspapers in Texas if we wanted to, or any other state as far as that's concerned. And I was promoting the fair tax at that time, and I still am, by the way, but it's not my major thrust. But that was that was my beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know anything about Twitter, but you knew everything about Twitter. And I want to say to your audience that they are very, very fortunate to have fell into your lap this early in their career of building a platform, because Mark Prasick knows more about Twitter than the people who work at Twitter. And I, and
Well,
I
I'm
dare
not so sure the people that work at Twitter know much of anything that's right anyway. I don't know.
well, I I was aware of that, but
But thanks for the nice words. I appreciate it.
I figure there's not as many as 5 people in America who know more about Twitter and how to use it than Mark Prasick. He may
Well,
be singularly the most informed, the most proficient at the use of Twitter of anybody in the country.
There we go. All right. Well, Glenn, let me put you on the backstage just a moment. I do want to introduce another one of our panelists who is having a bit of trouble, but many of you recognize Roger the Refugee, who's put on a collared shirt. He is clean shaven, kind of, for the most
Yes,
part.
I can only get my computer and phone working properly.
Well, folks, we live on baling wire, bubble gum, and duct tape around here to keep things going, but we're doing it. You heard a little bit about what Glenn said. Refugee and I ran across each other because you got this great idea to dress up in a cape as a superhero and pass out constitutions on the street of New Orleans, and got inspired to do a blog talk radio show. And I don't know how I caught you, but I thought this guy is a kook and a quack and thinks he's going to make a difference. But tell us a little about how you started and where you were with Twitter, and just give us your digital resume.
I had one Twitter account that had very few followers. I was not a big thing on Twitter at all. When I first quit my job, put on the cape and the costume, started handing out constitutions in the city of New Orleans. And I was having fun with it. One thing I will say in the beginning is that I was posting interesting content. People might have thought it was insane content, but it was interesting content, because I wasn't just putting up tweets about turning the country around and about God and country and the Constitution. That was all good stuff. But I was like going into the French Quarter of New Orleans and handing out constitutions and getting in arguments outside of gay bars and getting beer thrown on me, and and then tweeting about it. Okay, and so that aspect of it helped, and that aspect of it helped catch on. But Twitter is still important. Twitter is.
Okay, Refugee has kind of frozen up again, and I don't know if he can hear me. And what I'll do is we'll switch back to Glenn. I want to welcome Doug Carter to our chat room. Also, Jay Steins 3. Jay Steins 3, I did send you an email with a link if you would like to join our group of distinguished panelists. We'd be glad to have you if you're able to do that. Lori Metzger is here, Sunbelt Girls, and I'm here. And we've got some other people here. You will also be able to watch this later on YouTube. Glenn, I'm going to put the mic back on you. We learned a lot of things along the way, and you credit me with knowing all this stuff. And I think, while I appreciate that, it's a bit of an overstatement. I think the way it kind of happened is we set ourselves to a task of being influential on Twitter, and we kind of learned along the way. And some of the things that I thought when I first got on Twitter is that, first of all, this is stupid. It's absolutely stupid. I was accustomed to Facebook where you could write more, and suddenly I'm being forced to write short. I didn't like that. But I thought I was going to tweet my way into celebrity status because I'm such an interesting person, right?
Certainly, that's what I alluded to a while ago. You're a very interesting person.
But it wasn't working. I couldn't buy a retweet. Okay. Hold on. Glenn, go ahead. I'm going to mute my mic a second. And
Well, folks, Mark is he's not a real humble person, but he dodges the truth about himself from time to time. He is indeed one of the smartest people about Twitter in America, probably in the world. And I would be able to, I might have seen the way something was done on a particular website and mention it to him. And by gosh, he was able to implement it on all that PJNet was doing. I mean, all you had to do was ask, Mark, can we do this? and in 2 or 3 days it was done. Um, he, he doesn't like for me to say it, but he is a very remarkable person. And you were, I'm glad you fell in with him early in your Twitter life.
Well, Glenn, you embarrassed me. Let's talk about some mechanics. And folks, we're just going to kind of be conversational. Take notes, and we can watch this later, and we'll condense it down. We will probably follow up with a more organized presentation in the future once we kind of learn from what we did here. I mentioned you can't tweet your way into influence. So, how do you get followers? Well, first of all, let's talk about your tweets. They need to be interesting, but something you and I have talked about. In your passion to pursue whatever your goal was, be it fair tax, if you're a Christian writer, you want to promote your blog perhaps, or your book, or whatever, we tend to get focused on what we're doing, and we lose focus of the fact that that's all we're talking about, and people quit reading our tweets because, as Sunbelt Girl so profoundly said, why would they read your tweet? They already know what you're going to say. So in terms of tweeting, the actual content, be well-rounded, right? That was kind of a rhetorical question. I assume Glenn can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and, yeah, and I'm also trying to manage, we've lost Roger, and we're having contact or connection difficulties. So if tweeting, first of all, have variety in your tweets. Don't tweet about the same topic all the time. There's people out there that are passionate about particular causes and movements or whatever. But tweet about other things as well. A little wit and wisdom is good. I'm going to try to bring, well, I got to fix this. Now would be a great time to have a producer. Actually, I have a producer. Me. Hang on, Glenn. I'm going to test a connection and we'll come right back. Refugee, I don't know how long you'll be with us, so tell us quickly, how do you become a Twitter rock star?
Well, one of the things, aside from posting interesting content, you got to have followers. You got to have followers. And I learned both through trial and error. And I'm going to be honest, I had a coach that wasn't a conservative in the early going by the name of Shelley Bloom. Who wanted to get a book published. She had been this big water ski girl when she was young, wanted to get a book published about her life story. The publishers were telling her she didn't have a platform, and she built a huge platform on Twitter. She built a huge platform on other multimedia networks as well, and eventually got her book published, and she gave me some coaching. But one of the keys, quite honestly, Mark, is in who you follow, how you follow, how you unfollow, making those decisions. And I don't know if you want me to go into that right now or if you want to save that for a little bit later. But building that follower base, some of it is as simple as following back. Most of the people who follow, people tend to like it when they get followed back, and they tend to continue following. Following the types of people that you would like to have following. But there's a lot of tricks to the trade. I'm not sure how technical I should get now as far as like what Twitter would consider to be automated behavior and how you break that down and so on and so forth. So I'll kind of follow your lead on when you want me to go into some of that stuff, Mark. You can do some Q&A with that whenever you want to.
Okay, let me do this. I want to establish two principles, because if you only take away one thing from whatever time we spend here, when you're following people, there are two guiding principles. Number one, those people need to be like-minded. Principle number two, they need to be active on Twitter. Okay, so folks, write that down, burn it into your soul. When you're looking for followers, follow people that are like-minded. Number two, follow people who have been active on Twitter. Now, we'll define, every person will define what is active on Twitter, but if you're following someone whose last tweet was 6 months ago, they're not going to follow you back. They haven't logged in
And
6 months.
jump in right here, Mark, because I want to give a plug for Tweepi. There's a free version and a pay version, TWEEPI, and it's still up in operation. Well, they run into the same kind of problems we do. Twitter keeps changing the rules on them on what they can do and what they can't. But it is an excellent piece of software at very quickly deciding who you're going to follow, because it gives all these different columns, and you can decide how many columns you want to show. But you can basically have it. I could have it right now pull up every single person that Mark Prasek is following. Now, principle number one, hey, Mark Prasek's following them. They're probably like-minded. But I can also have it show on one page, showing about 40 of those people at a time. I can have it show their bio, when their last tweet was, and something that's called their follow ratio, which has to do with what percentage of the people that follow them do they follow back. Okay. So automatically, as soon as my eyes following somebody, I'm like, oh, they haven't tweeted 30 days. I'm not following them. Oh my God, they only follow back 2% of the people who follow them. I'm not following that person. Another person, though, my eyes light up. They follow back 90% of the people who follow them. They've tweeted today or they've tweeted yesterday. And I already know Mark Prasek is following them. And now I'm seeing in their bio that they're a patriot and a Christian. And I can just gather that information using that piece of software very, very quickly, and then just quickly hit the buttons on who I want to follow without having to go through this long process of looking up one person at a time. Yeah. That is a very, very good piece of software, and it really helps.
All right. Tip number one, use the tools tweepy.com, or sometimes referred to as Tweepi. Back to you, Glenn. Where did we leave off? How do you follow people? You were using TweetAdder. I think they're out of business now. It was an automated tweet bot, and that you composed your tweets and it would dispatch them later. But Glenn, you've gone from what, a few hundred to many, many, many thousands. To the people out there that are new to Twitter and they want thousands, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is to pay attention to their own bio. It needs to be a word picture of them. Your bio needs to include the things that are most important to you. The reason you're trying to build a platform. Every statement, what comes between every pair of commas, should be a plank in your bio, or a plank in your platform.
And a question in the chat, Glenn. People literally are so new, they don't quite know what hashtags are. I put a few hashtags in my bio. What would you say? Now, what are some good hashtags? All right, well, first of all, find the hashtags that are commonly used in like-minded people. For example, I'll recommend a great hashtag, PJNet. That's a good one.
That's in my bio. It's certainly in my bio. And I
put hashtags in your bio, as well as in your tweets, so that when people look at your bio, the use of those hashtags will brand you, where people can kind of get a take of who you are. You will learn. Yes. Let me. Roger wants to jump in real quick. Let's bring him on board. Go ahead.
Let me tell you the single most important hashtag either to use or not to use. It's MAGA, M-A-G-A, okay? Depending on how you feel about Donald Trump and whether or not you want Trump supporters. And by Trump supporters, I don't mean people who held their nose and voted for Trump. I mean people who are real Trump supporters. If you want real Trump supporters, they look for other MAGA people. So make America great again, hashtag M-A-G-A. You will get Trump supporters. At the same time, you will not get liberals when you put MAGA in there. You will not get never Trump Republicans. You will not get people who do not like Trump. So that is an example of a huge but controversial hashtag that, depending on your goals, you may use or not use. It's the single most used hashtag on Twitter today.
It is. Let me switch back to Glenn. So understand first, what is a hashtag? Why? Let's get real basic. A hashtag is usually an acronym of some kind, or phrase, or word of some kind, preceded by the pound sign. A hashtag is really what made Twitter Twitter. Because when you see a tweet with a hashtag, let's say you're following someone, and you see them use the hashtag and say, yes, I identify with that hashtag. PJNet is a hashtag. TCOT, top conservative on Twitter. Also hashtag CCOT, CCOT, conservative Christian on Twitter. Hashtags, there are a few brands, but they tend to be very fluid. But one of the things that you want to do is, if you see a hashtag in use that you identify with, if you click on the hashtag itself, Twitter will then show you all the tweets out there, not of the people you don't follow, who are using that hashtag. And you can quickly go down that list and say, hey, there's a person that's interesting. Gee, they just tweeted 5 minutes ago. They use this hashtag. You can click on their bio, check them out, and follow them. Folks, this is how you gain followers. You see what just happened? Like-minded, use of hashtag. That's principle number 1. Number 2, active on Twitter. They just tweeted moments ago. So if you follow those people, many, or at least some, but probably many, if not the majority, if you really get good at it, the majority will follow you back. That's how you gain followers. You do not gain followers by composing great tweets. Now, you do want to compose great tweets. You do want to have a variety of tweets. You don't want to be what is referred to in the chat room as a one-trick pony. Thank you for that one, J Steins 3, who has in excess of 100,000 followers. Glenn, you're just up there like a flower on the wall. I interrupted you. Go ahead, Glenn, your bio. Yeah.
Well, I just think it's very important for a potential follower when they come and read your bio, and many of them will read your bio before they make the decision to follow you. It should be a word picture of the person you are.
Well, we also have in the chat, so you follow somebody, and then what you do is you go through the people you're following, and J Steins 3's rule of thumb is, if they haven't followed you back in 3 days, unfollow them. And there is a reason. You say, why would I unfollow somebody? Well, let me bring Refugee on board. When you're trying to get followers, you're telling me to follow people. Now you're telling me to unfollow them. What the hell? Which is it?
Well, let me tell you why. The simple reasons why you want to follow people. Number 1, Twitter pays attention to your follower ratio. Okay, and if you are following, it doesn't even let you follow, I think, what is it, more than 1,000 people, until 1,000 people are following you.
Well, they have some hard rules, but they've also got a rule, and it's not quantified. But be careful. Be careful, folks. Listen carefully. Twitter has this concept called aggressive following. And if you are if you're following people in machine gun fashion, Twitter could actually suspend your account. Now, so I hear you. You're asking the question, well, how many people should I follow a day? I wish I had a number for you. I wish Twitter would give us a number. They don't, but I do kind of know this.
Over time, at the very beginning of your account, you have a brand new spanking account. I'm saying 10. Okay.
10.
Now, it reaches a point where you can follow 100 people a day, no problem. But I'm talking about, you have an old established account.
With a lot of followers. I don't know the algorithm, but if you've got a well-seasoned account, Roger, you and I used to follow 100, 200 people a day, but we had 40, 50,000 followers. So,
and a good follower ratio.
Right. if you're new, folks, just do 10 a day. Okay?
Yeah,
Just do 10. I know you're in a hurry. I know, but it's not about how quickly you get there. It's like losing weight. Do something every day. Every day, follow
well,
10 people.
in 1 year, I went from no followers to 50,000 followers. And I'm gonna say something about the 50,000 followers that I had too, because it isn't all in the number of followers. They were real people. That 50,000 followers probably represented, some people have duplicate accounts or this or that or the other, but I guarantee it represented 40,000 real people. And we can talk later about ways that I kind of weeded out the bots and weeded out the fake followers and so on and so forth. But within a year, I had 50,000 engaged followers who basically were heavily tweeting accounts. They were active. That was the deal. And it worked. So you can do it starting off small and then gradually building up momentum as you go. But yeah, because the Twitter pays attention to your follow ratio, it hurts you to be following a whole lot of people who are not following you back. And guess what? You're going to follow some, because maybe it's Ted Cruz that you're going to follow. Maybe it's Donald Trump that you're going to follow. But not all those folks are going to follow you back. So there's going to be some big national accounts that you're going to probably end up following that are huge celebrities that are not going to follow you back. So for that reason, it's really important that a very high percentage of the people that you're following that are not big famous people are following you back. So for that reason, I agree with Judy. 3 days, and if they don't follow you back, unfollow. I'll tell you one thing I noticed. I'd go in and I'd follow 100 people. 3 days later, 50 of them hadn't followed me back, and I'd go unfollow the 50 that hadn't followed me back. And damn, if 4 or 5 of them didn't follow me in the next few minutes.
I was waiting. I was trying to get a word in edgewise, and you kept on. But folks, pay attention to the chat. Listen to these experts who have been down this highway. Judy had put in the chat earlier, it's odd. Once you unfollow them, they follow you. Okay, now let me take a break. There is a program, and a lot of these apps that kind of helped us all get where we're at have suffered the same consequences as PJNet. Twitter has really put their thumb on third-party applications that act on your behalf. But let me say this. I forget the name of it. It was Unfollow Me or something like that. But you could literally subscribe to this service that would tell you who unfollowed you. And you would look at that, and you would look at some of the people that unfollowed you, and you would say, gosh, I missed the chance to follow them back. So that's when you follow them. And that program was pretty popular. I don't know if it is still in use or not, but understand the principle is you've said twice, Roger, that Twitter pays attention to your follow ratio. That's not the only entity paying attention. If I look at an account that has 4,000 that they follow, but only about 50 followers, I conclude that person is uninteresting.
Correct.
Now, let's switch it around. Let's say that a bunch of people follow that person, but they don't follow many people back. I say, if I follow them, there's not much of a likelihood that they'll follow me back. So we want to keep a balance between the number of people that you are following and the number of people that follow you. Don't let that get too tilted one way or the other.
It's probably roughly 55,000 following me, and I'm probably following roughly 45,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good ratio. People say, he's following about 80% of the people who follow him. Good chance he's following me back. But, I'm not following more people that are following me, so it doesn't make me look completely boring.
There we go. All right, Roger, let me put you backstage a minute. Let me turn the mic back over to Glenn before he falls asleep over there. Glenn, you are the expert in multiple. Wake up, Glenn. Glenn does something that I'm not sure. I don't do it, but let's talk about having multiple accounts on Twitter. Let's start with this. Twitter permits multiple accounts. Start there. How many accounts do you have on Twitter?
Well, I only have 3 now, and I don't do any tweeting but from one of them. But there was a time when I had 6, and the reason I had 6 was because I figured out that if you if six people came together and they all tweeted 10 tweets a day, and they also retweeted every tweet that the other six had made, the other five, that you would produce a whole heap of tweets. And I didn't know six people that were interested in doing something like that. So I became
All
those six
six.
people.
Okay. Now,
And I and that was a very productive thing
until.
until it wasn't.
Okay, let's talk about that in a minute. Okay. Back then, folks, the Twitter rules were either not enforced or not defined, but technically what Glenn just said today is actually against the Twitter rules. And people, if you've never read the terms of service, first, they're very hard to read. They're very voluminous, they're very vague, and in fact, they contradict one another. Okay? Because they're so vague, depending on the interpretation of different sections, they could contradict one another. But the rules basically say concerning duplicative content, you cannot tweet duplicative content. So you can't tweet it now and then tweet the same thing again later by your own account or get this, other accounts that you control. So what Glenn just described, he had himself and he had these five other, sock puppet accounts. So he would use those five, he would be guaranteed five retweets because he would always go use those other accounts to retweet his main account. Folks, you can't do that anymore. Okay? However, be aware that Twitter specifically allows you to have more than one account. For example, a lot of people have different interests. Let's say that you're a Christian writer. So you have your account that has to do, people that would tend to follow that account would be interested in Christian writers. But that may not be your only interest in life. Maybe you're also interested in a particular conspiracy theory, you really enjoy the discussion. Folks, set up another account for that. And so this way you can have multiple personalities on Twitter without having duplicate content. Fair enough, Glenn?
Yes.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right. Roger is wanting to weigh in. We'll pass the mic to him.
It's a beautiful thing, particularly as a writer, if you're looking to sell a book. Because look, if you're a Christian writer and you're looking to reach Christian readers or potential Christian readers, a lot of them are going to be Republicans. All of them are going to be Republicans. There's different types of people in that. And so in your official author account, you might want to hold down some of the controversy. You might want to be very interesting, very good, but you might want to hold down some of the controversy. But if meanwhile you go over and you have this radical right-wing conservative account over here that it's not hurting you because it's whatever, it's Jim Bob Loves America. Okay, and Jim Bob Loves America is a radical conservative, but what will happen is you will find new people on that Jim Bob Loves America account that you'll want to follow with your other account that you'll want as followers. It will lead you to new people. It will, so it's a way that you can still gain access to the MAGA country people without offending those that aren't as on board with Trump as you are, or something like that. So they can be used for very good things like that. And then also, just like Mark said, different interests. You might be the biggest Oakland Raiders fan in the world and just want to have one account where you talk about nothing but Oakland Raiders football. I have an account called Roger is Catholic where I only talk to other Catholics about Catholic on Catholic stuff. That's not because I don't love my Protestant brothers and sisters. I do. Okay. But I talk to them on my other two accounts. I have three accounts, and I have one account that's just specifically reserved, for this is where I talk to other Catholics about specifically Catholic things.
Okay. Let me switch back to Glenn just a moment. And let me kind of catch up in the chat. Some things people are asking, how do you know if somebody's following you? Well, you can click on their bio. In other words, click on their profile picture. It'll take you to their bio, and it will say on that page, following you, if they're following you. It's that simple. There are other ways you can look in your followers and see if they're in there, but that can be a very enumerated list. Glenn, I know that you said you've been up all night with some infirmity, so we don't want to cause you any grief here. What would you tell people? We've talked about their bio. What are some things to avoid?
Well,
you don't avoid anything. That was a wrong. Go ahead.
well, there is one thing I can recommend that they avoid, and that not having a bio picture of some kind. Just have that dummy
silhouette.
Yeah, there. Yeah. You may not want to. These writers may not want their own personal picture on there.
I bet they do.
Well, maybe they do, and if they do, my gosh, take enough pictures and pick the best of them. And remember, you can adjust or edit your bio every day. Sometimes you can do it 5 times a day, so that what you put there is not permanent. You can change it. And if you think of something that will make your bio more complete, by gosh, go and edit it. And I just think that bio is very crucial to success in gaining followers that are like you. I mean, because they'll come and look at your bio, and by gosh, if
Glenn, I think it's you raised some interesting points, folks. You need to understand that power Twitter users, experienced Twitter users, are going to make the decision to follow or not follow you in the blink of an eye. They're not going to sit there and drill down on your, that. Don't count on that. Glenn, I think for Christian writers, a picture of yourself would probably be very good. Now, if you are using your Twitter account to advocate a cause, you probably would want to put some kind of symbol, okay, that would connect, like Fair Tax has a logo. The problem with using logos is other people are using that logo, and it's hard for you to have a distinct identity. But rule number 1 in bios: 1, have one. 2, use a hashtag in your bio. Number 3, have a picture. Folks, it's okay to kind of mutate your bio and experiment. Mine has not changed recently, but you can add a hashtag to your bio, and people will discover you because there are tools out there. In fact, Twitter, when you search for, quote, people, and you put a hashtag in there, Twitter will produce a list of the people who have that hashtag in their bio. Gee, that would be a nice way to learn, hey, there might be some people in there I want to follow. So be that person, okay? So that's bio stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your Twitter name. We've got let's say you're brand new to Twitter, and you were signing up and you just picked a name, and you found out that Twitter shortened your Twitter identity. Instead of at this long thing you put in, they only take the first. How do you remember how many characters can be in a Twitter username? Well, spell Twitter username without any spaces. That's how many characters can be after the at symbol. So if you put more than that, they will truncate it. So just take a piece of paper out and write Twitter username, count the characters. That's how many you can have. Now you can have a descriptive name much longer than that, and people can find you both ways. But your address on Twitter is your Twitter username. You can go to twitter.com/datagenesis, and you'll pull up my bio page. Have a Twitter name. Let's say your last name is Prasic. Okay, that's not easy to spell. So maybe you would like a Twitter name that's easy to spell. Let me go to the chat room, get your comment. different photos, different brands. If you have two accounts, have a different folks. You need to listen to Jay Stein's 3. Okay, this chat will be here. If you come back tomorrow, you can scroll up and get this stuff. These are your notes. She is probably the foremost expert on building a Twitter brand out there, period. I have a flag on my main account. That's her picture. Jay Stein's 3 has used that. It's a great symbol. Also, let me just touch on something. Just because you found an image on Google doesn't mean you're allowed to use it. In fact, chances are it is copyrighted. I happen to know that Jay Stein's 3 took that photo herself. She owns it. Stay out of trouble, people. We're Christians. We're called to a higher standard. Don't spend 10 seconds on each account. Judy says she took that picture herself. Folks, there's a lot here. Have a simple Twitter name that is easy to spell. So if you're on the phone with somebody, and you can find me Twitter, I am at something. At Data Genesis. I say at data, like data, computer, and Genesis, like Genesis in the Bible. Data Genesis, the beginning. Okay? You can have any Twitter name you want, but listen, if you're new to Twitter and you're hearing something and you're thinking, man, I didn't do that right, there's never a good time to change your Twitter handle. But better now, sooner than later, because once you get a bunch of followers, you can lose people. Let me switch back to Roger. Glenn, if you hear something you want to weigh in on, just let me know. I can actually hear you, and they can't when you're not on camera, okay? So please feel free if you get a thought to barge in. Roger, have you ever followed like I have? Or no, let me say this. You go back through the people you're following, and you are horrified to find you are following a porn account. I know that I would never, ever, ever follow a porn account. Just because someone has an interesting bio today might be bait.
Exactly. Oh, and they'll even do it. They'll go create. They'll put up something suggesting that they're a Christian man struggling with chastity and trying to stay chaste. And they'll get as many people like that as possible to follow them. And then they'll go ahead and they'll change the name of the bio and they'll turn it into a pornographic account. And so they'll even do it in evil ways like that. Mm-hmm. But yes, you want to monitor who you're following and keep track of that.
Folks, listen carefully, because if you start following a lot of people, go back through your followers or who you are following, because literally there are people out there that will bait you into following them by changing their bio to have things that would appeal to you, and later they will literally mutate into something totally evil. It was bait, it was a trick, and then other people look at who you're following, and you're following all these porn stars.
And Mark, sometimes it isn't even something evil. I happen to have one account that used to be pretty innocuous that now is an account where I discuss deeply personal things. I discuss my past with drug addiction and alcoholism, how I got sober, relationship with Christ, yes, but sin, yes, struggles with sin, yes. That's not everybody's cup of tea, okay? And it's not even every Christian's cup of tea. Not everybody is interested in hearing about your dark past or something like that. And it's not something I would even recommend most people do on Twitter. There are specific reasons why I felt called to do it, to try to help other people, and why I didn't think I would be harmed by it. But it doesn't even have to be an evil thing. Twitter accounts change. People change. Mm-hmm. And what people are tweeting about changes, And so, yeah, keep it up. Keep monitoring.
Okay,
Mark,
so
there's something I want to say before
go
we
ahead.
go on
Go
to
ahead.
because we're talking a lot of technical stuff. Have fun. And let me just tell a couple personal things and then a couple ways that writers will have fun. Now, this is going to be frustrating for writers, I know, but it's also going to be fun for writers. The Twitter character limit, okay? Now, it used to be 160 characters. They made it longer. I'm probably one of the few people who wishes they didn't, but it's still very limited. You have a limited number of characters. So sometimes when I have something really important to say, I'll sit down and I'll write it out in a tweet, and it's way too long. And now what I have to do is I have to edit down that tweet to the specific number of characters that will fit in a tweet without using any of my brilliance, any of my humor. And I can tell you, I can agonize sometimes over even things as simple as I'm getting rid of an AND and replacing it with an ampersand to save 2 characters. But I'm like, oh, I don't want an ampersand in this tweet. I don't want it like that. But it's fun, and I enjoy it. Okay, and so you can have some fun on Twitter. I'm gonna tell you something else. You're realizing it now. I consider Mark Prasek to be one of my closer personal friends in life. I've never met the man except for on Twitter and on PJNet and talking to him on the phone. We met on Twitter. During the first year of Obama's presidency. And we have now been close friends for years, and we've never met. There are fun things, there are special things that happen on Twitter. So I don't want you to think of it as, oh my God, this is a class, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to have to do all this stuff. No, you're learning principles. And then as you learn how to have fun on Twitter, these principles are going to get worked into how you're having fun on Twitter. And you're going to end up growing your brand organically while you're having fun.
Let me go back to the chat room. Let's talk about a couple things that are very important. And folks, if I can't keep up with the chat, I apologize. This is our first of more to come Twitter boot camps. We're going to get better at this. So we're just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. If you start gaining influence on Twitter, you're going to pop up on some radars of the enemy. And here's what they're going to do. You're going to put out a tweet about Christianity, and they are going to reply to you with let's just say, a provocative question. All right, now, we're talking trolls now. Okay, now here's the thing. It's not a sincere question. Let's talk about what to do about trolls. When somebody replies off topic or in a provocative way, it's in the chat room. Don't reply to a troll. Block them. Okay? Why would you block them? Have you thought about it? All right.
I know why, Mark. Reply traps and suspensions. They're trying to get you suspended. What they're trying to get you to do is they're trying to get you to tweet to them. Okay, so now they can say this person's tweeting at me. And they're trying to get you to say something that could be construed as offensive.
Well, everything's hate speech now.
Hate speech against it, and then they're going to report you.
Okay? If you call them stupid, okay, hate speech is a broad brush to paint with, folks, and Twitter paints with a very broad brush. Let me point out.
I may be reporting you for calling them stupid.
Okay, you use the phrase reply trap. Mm-hmm. Folks, I don't want to scare you. You need to be aware of the minefield you're walking through. The person that replied to you is the leader of a wolf pack. Mm-hmm. He has 50 people standing by, waiting on you.
They're having class just like we're having class right now. They have classes.
They are organized. Okay, you make a reply and you get caught up in emotion. You call them stupid, or you know your emotions get the best of you. He will then notify the rest of his wolf pack to report you to Twitter. Now, Twitter, the rules say you can report someone as a bystander. They do not have to have interacted with you for you to report them. So all of a sudden, Twitter sees an avalanche of reports against you. Their artificial intelligence captures that number, and they will temporarily, at the least, suspend your account simply because there was just a rash of complaints. None of them are justified. None of them are warranted, but you can avoid it because you replied to them. Don't reply. You could listen. J. Steins 3 says block them, and we'll go into why to block them. But just look, at the very least, don't reply to a troll. I've watched literally thousands of these back and forth, and I am still waiting for the other person to say, I've been considering some of the points you've brought up, and I've come to realize I'm wrong and you're right. Let me sign up for your cause.
Let me get in here for to say something basic too. A lot of us love to debate. Twitter's not the platform for debate. Longer platforms where you can put in more information, where you can say more things. Twitter is a place for putting a bumper sticker on your car and getting a message out. Mm-hmm. Twitter is a place for finding and connecting with like-minded people. It's not built for debate. The limited number of characters make it not built for debate, and then Twitter's overreaction to hate speech make it not built for debate. So just don't think that, oh, well, I like friendly debate and this and that. Do that somewhere else. Do that where there's more characters. There are legitimate places to debate and where people go to debate. Twitter's not a debate society. For some people, it's a have fun society, and for some people, it's a promotion society. Whether they're promoting themselves, their brand, their cause, their message, America, Christianity, whatever, they're promoting something, and you're finding like-minded people. You're making friends, and you're promoting things. You're having pep rallies. That's what Twitter's for. It's not for intellectual debate.
Let me add. Pay attention, folks. These people that set up these reply traps, they will set up disposable temporary Twitter accounts with just a few hundred followers. Okay. Now let's say that you have 50,000 followers and you post something, and a troll replies with an off-topic, off-color, provocative reply. That account they used has maybe 200 followers, so their audience on that is about 200. When you reply back, their message has reached 50,000 people. Why on earth would you give a troll your audience that you've worked so hard for? Think about it. Folks, you cannot win this game. Don't reply. Block them. Now, here's why to block them. If you block them, they can no longer see your tweets to do this kind of thing. Now, there is some futility there. As I said, these are expendable accounts. It's like cockroaches. You just can't kill them all. But I tell you this, you do have, as Christians, we have a peace that passes understanding. If you can't take some of this, then if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Twitter is an open platform. Folks, there are bad people out there. Ignore them. Focus on the good people. Focus on proclaiming your message and finding people who are like-minded and active on Twitter. And let's make the message. Let me see what else is in the chat room. Okay, I think I'm kind of caught up. I want to say thank you for J Steins 3. She has helped me. Oh, memes. Okay, Twitter is short. Remember that? What you said. Twitter's like the bumper sticker on the back of your car. A lot of people use memes, pictures with text. That's what a meme is. As a way to extend the character count. Good idea or bad idea?
Good idea.
Okay. But there's something, all right, first of all, too much of a good thing. I have seen memes that are so crowded with text, you can't read them. Can't read
the meme has to be a picture. It has to be a picture that grabs the eye within a small number of words.
All right, so let me say this. If you're about to tweet and you're not going to add a picture, consider finding a picture. Now, folks, again, copyright is a law, okay? And just because nobody gets caught and prosecuted doesn't make it morally correct. There are resources, pixabay.com. I'll put that on the screen momentarily. This is one of many websites where you can go find pictures. And I need some help from somebody out there for a meme maker website, pixabay.com. We'll put that right there on the screen. Folks, there it is. Free pictures that you have the right to use them. No limitations. That is one of many. Every tweet should have a picture. Think about it. We have analyzed this, and so J Steins 3, you say, well, she's kind of an artist anyway. Folks, anybody can get a picture, and anybody can add some text to that picture and make a meme. Now, Try to find a picture that is roughly twice as wide as it is high. And I don't want to get real technical here, but if you put a meme, keep the text away from the edges, because there is a specific size or aspect ratio that Twitter renders these pictures, and sometimes some of that text will get cut off. So find a picture that is basically twice as wide as it is high. I'm trying to keep this real simple. And don't let your text get too close to the top or too close to the bottom or too close to the sides. So in case Twitter truncates that picture, your message is still in it. Now, J. Steins 3, bless her heart, has something to say. If you are using your tweets to promote a cause, there are people out there that don't like that cause, and their Twitter is scanning the text of your tweets all the time. Okay? The clear text in your tweet is easily scanned, easily detected. The trolls are scanning it. That is very, very public. And that's good. But if you've got something to say that might, by some groups of people, be considered, well, offensive, and the gospel message, folks, is to some people, they don't want to see it on Twitter. Put that message in the picture, because a picture is a picture. They can't read Twitter or the scanning tools, whether they're human or artificial intelligence, cannot read the text of your meme. Not easily, anyway. Only the most advanced technology can do that. So take the message that might be something that may be offensive or considered hate speech, whether it is or not, and put that message in the picture. And always, when possible, text. You can tweet some text, and then somebody can tweet that same text and just add a picture. Guess which one gets more attention? Let's talk about pictures.
Yep. And you can do it. You can do it, Mark. Mark, one of my accounts gets suspended all the time, and so far I've always got it suspended. But I'm going to give you an example of a tweet that got it suspended. Now I followed it and I got it unsuspended. But this is what the tweet said. The tweet said, "Same-sex attraction is not a sin, but it is a serious disorder. Homosexual sex is a sin. Chastity, not pride." Okay, that's what it said. I got that account suspended as hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I fought it and I got back, but that's an example that would not have gotten picked up on as quickly in the picture had I included the picture.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about Twitter has some rules against gore. Okay, gore. And these rules, in my opinion,
selectively enforce.
Is selectively enforced. They're painted with a very broad brush, but there's some code in the Twitter rules that say you cannot post content that is gory. Now, they specify, which is very unlike Twitter to be specific, but one of the specific examples of gore is surgical procedures, which is code for abortion. Folks, you may feel very passionate, as I do, about the sanctity of life. You may believe that to get people's attention, to show the actual horror of abortion, and when you see this aborted fetus, that's a surgical procedure.
Mark, my account once got suspended for posting a picture of a 22-week stillborn baby. It wasn't even an abortion. It was a 22-week stillborn baby, and I said, put the picture up, and I said, what a beautiful baby, to think that babies are still aborted at this age. Got suspended. Now I fought it and won. Okay, but somebody just reported it, and somebody piled on, and they accused me of basically posting a picture of an abortion. I didn't. It was a beautiful baby that had been stillborn.
Folks, this is you may not want to hear this, but you need to know. There's a collaborator that posted a picture or a depiction of the crucifixion of Christ. Account suspended, that's gore. And the fact of the matter is, you're right, Twitter, that is gore. You're absolutely right. That is the message that Christ suffered and died for us. Yes, it's gory, but it is the truth. But be aware that when you post that, the Twitter rules are written in such a way, and probably selectively enforced in such a way as to silence your voice. Sad, but true. You need to know.
Guess what's unfortunately not against the rules of Twitter?
IG. Pornography. Good point.
Twitter is the biggest pornographer in the world. Protect yourselves from it. Block the accounts. And unfortunately, Twitter, not only do they allow people to post pornography, but all you got to do is say you're 18 and you're 18. And so Twitter is providing pornography to children. That is simply a fact of the matter. It's one of the things that upsets me the most about Twitter, that I would like to see us come up with a way to pressure Twitter into changing.
Now, Twitter, but let me qualify that, and I'm glad you brought that up. Twitter does prohibit child pornography.
Yes, they do.
But pornography per se is not prohibited.
Put that you're when you sign up, they won't let you see anything. They'll automatically put the settings on your account to not see sensitive material. But if a 12-year-old goes on and claims to be an adult and does their settings, I want to see everything, that 12-year-old is now going to be looking at tons of people.
Yes.
That's also why
another thing
don't the kids have unfettered access to computers.
Stay focused. Folks, stay focused. If you see pornography on Twitter, you might be indignant and you might be tempted to report it. Well, now you know that two things are wrong here. First of all, pornography is not prohibited on Twitter. Number two, now you're not proclaiming your message. You are now off on another tangent. I've seen coaches do this. They get in an argument with a referee and they get so heated and so angry, they cease to be a coach. Now they're just having an argument with a referee. Folks, stay focused. Proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. Okay? Gospel. Good news. Okay? Proclaim the gospel. Don't get caught up in, let me just check my texts. Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. My pest control agent just called me and he's running a little late. You may feel very passionately about it, but you just have to understand the landscape. Twitter is presumably an open platform. That's what they claim to be. By open, that means you can see stuff you'd rather not see. Well, don't see it. You got your camera where you want it there, Roger? I'm going to read the chat here a little bit. Mentions and notifications. Oh, good. Thank you, J Steins 3. Okay. I see this often. My account was suspended for no good reason. Well, I've watched users like this, and they have a habit. One of the things you can do on Twitter is in the text of your tweet, what we call mention another account. Now, sometimes if your account is mentioned by other users on Twitter, in the context of, Roger's a great guy on Twitter and I'm just glad to know him. That is a compliment, and that will trigger a notification to Roger. So that is the legitimate use of a mention on Twitter, where you are mentioning somebody in the context of the tweet itself. Twitter has a rule against using mentions, quote, too often. Now, what is too often? Well, they don't say, do they? So, is 10 too many? I don't know. 10 a day. Is 100 too many? I don't know. I do know this. 0 is not too many. So I avoid mentioning other accounts, period, in my tweets. But if you mention other people, now, so here's what some people do to abuse that feature. They've got a tweet and they want it to get noticed by Sean Hannity, or they want it to get noticed by J-Lo, or they want it to get noticed by a particular congressional representative or the president. So what they'll do is just add a bunch of mentions to their tweet. They'll say at POTUS, at so-and-so, at so-and-so. Well, it's not within the context of the tweet. You're not talking about those people. okay, or giving them a compliment or anything. You are simply using that feature to make that little bell go off on their end, hoping to get your tweet noticed and hopefully then retweeted or replied to or something like that, or followed, maybe trying to attract followers. Folks, Twitter does not look kindly upon this. Let me read the chat. Twitters and mentions. I need to increase the font on my laptop that I use. Roger PJNet in the past has used this feature successfully, but people have gotten in trouble for overusing it. What's your take on mentioning other accounts on Twitter? There's some alternatives. You could just tag them on a photo, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I do it minimally. I've seriously minimized the amount of it. I do it when there's a reason, but I've minimized the amount of it to keep from getting in trouble. That's an interesting.
Just be aware that anytime you mention another Twitter account, hold on just a minute, I've got to mute something over here. Glenn, if you need to jump in, wave your arms. I've got the sound muted because there's some background noise back there. It's very tempting to tag your tweet with a bunch of mentions, at so-and-so, at so-and-so, at so-and-so, knowing that they will get notified of your tweet and hopefully retweet. And that, folks, just avoid the shortcuts, okay? Just avoid the shortcuts. There is no silver bullet in Twitter that can instantly catapult you into celebrity status. It's something you work on daily. Twitter, as I mentioned earlier, you can tag a photo. Okay? Now, what you do, we've already said, add a photo to your tweets. It adds interest, even if it's just a beautiful sunrise or something. Add the picture. But when you add a picture, you can tag people. The original intent was you could tag people that are in the photo, but Twitter is very, I hate to use the word liberal, but it's okay to tag people in photos because, first of all, people who don't want to be tagged on photos, you can set your account that you can't be tagged. Number two, if let's say that you were tagged on a photo, you knew nothing about this person, and all of a sudden your notifications are just blowing up because you've been tagged in a photo by a very popular tweet. Well, first of all, it probably is a good thing. Maybe you should start following some of these people that are tweeting. They might be like-minded. But you at any time can opt yourself out of being tagged in that photo. After you've been tagged, you can effectively get untagged. You can untag yourself. So this is an excellent way. So principle number one, use photos. Principle number two, tag others in the photo. Maybe they will pile on. Oh, piling on. Teamwork. The very basis, the foundation of PJNet. Teamwork. Family. Okay? Well, they're on to our game, folks. There is this concept now. Get this. It's got a fancy name. Reciprocal inflation. And this is
what
new.
Writers do when they review each other's books and put it on the back covers of their books.
Reciprocal inflation is techniques. Here's an example. Let's say that we set up this little private direct message group. Okay. And in that group, we have 10 people, and the basic understanding is, gee, I'm going to post a tweet in there, and the idea is the other 9 people are going to retweet my tweet because I posted it in that group. And of course, when I see a post in that group by someone else, I'm going to retweet it. So we have this understanding that we're going to team up. We're going to be a wolf pack. We are going to, artificially inflate by reciprocity the popularity of that tweet. Folks, there are some very good examples of Twitter direct message groups that are claimed to be highly effective. Well, number one, understand this. Twitter, it is against the Twitter rules to engage in reciprocal inflation. Twitter wants a tweet to go viral, so to speak, because you tweeted it and your followers just saw it and retweeted it, and their followers just saw it and retweeted it, and it is organic. Anything you do to inorganically inflate that tweet might be a no-no. Okay, now let me catch up on the chat. Someone said, I thought Twitter looked favorably on hashtag FF Follow Friday. Okay, yes they do, but it's a matter of how much and how often, and they don't quantify what is too much and what is too often. So you may be doing
that they probably have their algorithm leave those tweets alone, but I don't know that for sure.
Well,
because I did do Follow Friday and just put a whole bunch of people's names, and I never specifically got in trouble for that.
I never did either, but I always put people that I was in fact following.
Yeah.
Okay. When I used to do Follow Fridays, and it's sort of a tradition on Twitter. You use the hashtag FF Foxtrot, but make sure that you are following the people that you suggest. Don't just use it to gain the attention, to pay a compliment to someone you don't follow in hopes that they will follow you. Folks, just avoid the shortcuts.
People you don't follow and who don't follow you are worse. When you and someone else are both following each other, the mention is not rated as badly by Twitter. I can guarantee you that.
But if you say, well, here, I'm going to make a list of 200 people, and I'm going to just populate that list with as many as the character count will allow, well, you did too much.
Right.
And it gets to be kind of insincere, doesn't it? It's really not about following them. It's about following you. So kind of guard yourself against it. I think Follow Friday is a great idea. It's a well-accepted tradition on Twitter. But like anything else, too much is too much. And what is too much? Well, Twitter doesn't say. It's
too much, whatever Twitter decides it is. And their rules are written intentionally vaguely so that they can do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it.
Mm-hmm. And you need to be aware of it. Now, let's say, Judy, again, got some good advice. If somebody retweets your tweet, and if you're not following them, well, maybe you should be. Okay, they retweeted your tweet, so they're probably like-minded. Remember the initial two principles. These are the takeaways. If you don't get anything else from this, rule number 1, follow like-minded people. Rule number 2, follow like-minded people that are active on Twitter. Now, Roger, have you fallen into the trap of, Twitter will say who to follow?
Their algorithm's terrible. It's terrible.
I think it's on purpose.
I don't use it at all. It'll tell you to follow people sometimes that you have nothing in common with, but you had one word the same in your bio. So it gets you that way. It'll tell you to follow people that haven't tweeted in months. I completely ignore it.
When I first started, it's even worse than that. When I first started Twitter, I didn't know Twitter from, I didn't know. So I got on there, I did a little bit, and I didn't like it. So I didn't get on Twitter. Okay? I want to talk about dead accounts. There we go. All right, so I just said Twitter's not for me, and I checked my email, and one day I get an email.
My mother has been blowing me up for a little while with some text, and I actually have to cut out. I have to go over there to take care of a responsibility over there for her. But I want to let you know, I thank you for inviting me to be a part of the panel. I really enjoyed being here, and I'll also see you tonight.
Yeah, we'll do this again. Hey, tonight Roger will have a show, and we look forward to that. Appreciate you piling on. I'll switch back to Glenn real quick, and Roger will take care of his stuff. What I was about to say, folks, is I got an email from Twitter saying, hey, you've got a bunch of new followers. Go log in on Twitter. In other words, sometimes this who to follow list, Twitter has got some inactive users, and they put them up there as who to follow based on some very loose algorithm in hopes that they can get that person to be active again by sending them an email because they've got new followers. Folks, the who to follow recommendations from Twitter, is the last place I would look to find people to follow. Find people to follow. Go find, here's one you can do. Go look at J Steins 3. Go find those power Twitter users. And look at who J Steins 3 is following. Okay? In other words, so it doesn't have to be J Steins 3. Find somebody influential on Twitter that you really trust and say, this is a solid, like-minded individual that knows what they're doing on Twitter. And go look at who they are following. Guess what? Maybe you should follow them too, because they're like-minded. But before you follow them, click on their profile. Now, don't necessarily look at the pinned tweet. There's a feature in Twitter, it's kind of neat, I use it, that you can take a tweet and pin it to where it's always the first tweet that is seen on your profile page. That tweet could be months old. A lot of pinned tweets are. Mine aren't, but I update mine daily. You may want to consider that feature as something you want to do. Don't look at a pinned tweet. Go past the pinned tweet and find out when did they organically tweet something. And every tweet has a little timestamp as to when it was tweeted. Folks, if it was 3 months ago, I think it's fair to assume that person probably hasn't logged in on Twitter in 3 months. So if you follow them, the chances of them following you back are slim and none. Now, how long is too long? Well, that's going to be something you're going to have to decide. At one point, I was saying if you hadn't tweeted in 24 hours, I think that's way over the top. But, a week, if somebody isn't logging in Twitter more than once a week, I don't think the chances of them seeing your tweet is kind of, even if they follow you, the chances of them seeing your tweet are kind of remote. Okay, so I look at every, Rachel says, I look at every account's bio. Oh, here's some things to look for in the bio. One, do they have one? If they don't have a bio, and Glenn talked about this, have a bio. Well, the reason is if they don't have a bio, that really is demerits on your Twitter account. If their bio says something like Joe 76543211234, well, this person probably didn't create their account conscientiously. Heck, it may even be a bot. Look in their bio for things that you connect with. Like-minded folks. It's real simple. Follow like-minded people. If they have a silhouette for a bio picture, well, they didn't even take the time to load it. They're not serious. That doesn't mean they're not good people, but you can't, if you're trying to gain and be a leader on Twitter and an influence on Twitter, there's some people that you're going to have to leave behind. They are baggage. You are dragging anchor. They can't help you get where you're trying to get on Twitter. Folks, we want you to be a Twitter rock star. Here's why. This is a team and this is a family. Irregardless of Twitter's so-called reciprocal inflation, okay, we are a family. I read the people that I follow. I read their stuff. I read their blogs. I retweet them organically. Folks, if we will organically act as a team and act as a family, we can help each other get the gospel message of Jesus Christ out into a very dark world. Have you gone to your J Steins 3? Have you gone to your notifications page? Folks, that notifications page is a gold mine. Those are people that have retweeted you or mentioned you in some way. If you go down, your notification page, chances are good you need to pay attention to anything there. And if you're not following them, you probably should be. I say probably. Not always. Use some judgment and use the tools. Unfortunately, a lot of the tools, Glenn, you started out with TweetAdder. A lot of the third-party tools, such PJNet at one time had an application that would help. We could give you a lot better advice back then. Okay. And we do still do a limited number of applications, but we'll save that for another discussion. But when the Russian bot narrative started, Twitter went on a rampage against content posted that was inorganic. In other words, it wasn't posted by someone using their phone. Twitter, by the way, knows where the tweet came from. Did it come from an iPhone? Did it come from the Twitter website? What tool, what means did you use to post the content? Well, if the means that you used to post that content wasn't the Twitter website or wasn't your mobile phone, it was then probably an application. So applications got targeted, didn't they, Glenn? Oh, excuse me, I've got Glenn. Just stand by, Glenn. There we go. Now, applications came under a lot of scrutiny, and TweePie, Manage Flitter, PJNet. There was a host of them out there that were really good tools that no longer have the punch they used to have, if they exist at all. What happened?
Actually, I don't know what happened, but I know it happened. I really don't know what to say about that, Mark.
Well, Twitter wholesale basically, suspended several apps, including the PJNet app. Now, by the way, if you use an application, a third-party program to dispatch your tweets, when you sign up for that, the Twitter terms of service say you, not the application, are responsible for the content you post on Twitter. When you grant an application access to post on your behalf, and they hijack your account and post stuff, the app is not responsible. You are, because you gave them permission. It's sort of like, if you own a car and you give permission to somebody else to use it, and you are complicit in what happens in the use of that car. But TweetAdder was a program where you could literally set up a battery of tweet content to be dripped out later. So that is inorganic. PJNet has in the past, and still in a limited way, has a similar feature. Okay? But that content comes under a lot more scrutiny. Okay? TweetAdder was basically put out of business. A lot of people were using it legitimately just as a tweet scheduler. PJNet has today, on a limited scale, a tweet scheduler that you can have tweets going out while you're sleeping, and they will continue to go out after you're dead if somebody doesn't stop them. But be careful in using the tools, because they, leverage or multiply the effect. They work, and they work so well that they get noticed by Twitter, because Twitter is watching inorganic content. You used to use TweetAdder, didn't you?
No, but I have used the facility there at PJNet on your own site extensively. As a matter of fact, I'm using it as we speak. There's a there's a tweet going out every hour at 12 minutes past the hour, 24 hours a day, and the series of tweets begins again after 5 days and 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. In the chat room, one of my favorite tools is Manage Flitter, and I'll put it up here. But the problem is it used to be a very valuable tool, but because Twitter has basically hammered down on inorganic application-generated content, Manage Flitter had a paid version. It was like $6, $7 a month. I used it daily. It had it had one feature that was really potent. I used. This is kind of a weird idea. This may sound counterintuitive. We talked about unfollowing people that don't follow you. Okay? Let's say that you've been followed by an account that you has changed. You thought they were, a Christian writer, but now you go to their bio page and they're a conspiracy theorist or porn site. So you unfollow them, right? But they're still following you. Do you know that there is a way to make someone cease following you, and it's a good idea. You need to weed the garden. You need to get out of your followers the stuff that you don't want. Okay? We talked about blocking people, trolls, people. You can make them, blocking someone causes them, if they are following you and you block them, two things happen. You are no longer following them if you were, and they are no longer following you if they were. Now that you've blocked them, they can no longer see your tweets. Now, actually, they can, but they can't post anything. What if, I'm on a tangent here, I'm on a detour. What if somebody has blocked you, but you actually want to see their tweets? You can do it. Here's how you do it. Log out of Twitter. Now you're not, you can't block anonymous visitors to Twitter. So if there's someone who has blocked you, you want to read their tweets. Maybe they're saying stuff about you, but you'd never know they've blocked you. Well, now you know. Log out of Twitter and go, whatever their username is. Let's say their username is, Bob Jones or Billy Bob. Okay. You can go to Twitter, logged out of Twitter. You can go to twitter.com/BillyBob. That'll take you to their profile page and you can read their tweets. And if they're saying bad things about you, well, you can find out. But if you're logged into Twitter, you can't see it. All right. Now, here's the thing. If someone is following you and you don't want them to be following you, you can do a very nice thing. You can simply block them and then unblock them. That will break that following connection. So you don't have to be punitive and block them, but you simply don't want them following you anymore. Maybe their interests have changed, or maybe they've switched parties and you just, nothing, no bad feelings. So just block them and then unblock them, and they are no longer following you and you are no longer following them. Manage Flitter. If you use their little $7 a month paid version, you could literally go through and do this, man. You could check off 100 of them and they do it for you. It just, you click the mouse, check the boxes, click the mouse, it's done. Hundreds of them. Many of the features that attracted legitimate users, such as PJNet, such as Manage Flitter, such as TweetAdder, such as TweePie, those apps have been reduced to tinker toys, if they exist at all. And so some of the power tools that helped our panelists get where they're at either don't exist anymore or certainly don't have the efficacy and potency that they once had, but the principles involved can still be beneficial to build your influence on Twitter.
Well, I used Manage Flitter every day.
I do too.
And I think Twitter lifted their application also.
Well, they still exist, Glenn. I did log in last night just kind of trying to prepare a little bit for this. The powerful features that they had, they no longer have. Okay, you can right. Use it to follow. But they, batch operations that did multiple accounts at the same. A lot of that's gone. J Steins 3 has a suggestion in the chat. It used to be you couldn't do this, but you can now. So listen up. Do you know that you can retweet your own tweet? Isn't that silly? That's a silly idea. But there are influential people on Twitter that literally retweet their own tweet. So if you have a tweet that you'd like to put on the radar, retweet yourself. It's permitted. Do it. I would kind of consider that priming the pump, so to speak. Here's another thing that Twitter looks down upon. And there's legitimate uses of this, but there are also illegitimate uses of it. And Twitter calls this follow churn. Okay? When you go to Twitter and look at the people who follow you, you are going to be presented of the list in the order of the most recent to the, and it just goes chronologically backwards. So if you start getting to be influential on Twitter, you're going to have a lot of new followers, and you're going to have to pay attention to that list, because after a while you're going to have to scroll back so far it gets to become laborious. And there's so a user that may have only followed you a couple of days ago might be on page 20 of the people who follow you, and you just get fatigued and weary and never get down to them. Well, some people know this, so what they would do is they would unfollow you and then refollow you, putting them where? Back at the top of the list. All right, well, you say, well, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down the people I've followed and go scroll down far enough, and I'm going to unfollow them and then refollow them, and that way I'll be back at the top of their list of followers, and maybe they'll follow me back that way. Well, Twitter considers this follow churn, and it is against the rules. Now, is it against the rules to do it one time? Well, gee, folks, I don't know. Twitter doesn't say. But they do say follow churn is prohibited. But this was another way you could use these tools to get rid of old, follow people you followed. But later you may see them again and accidentally, I guess, in good faith. No ill intent. You just saw them. You didn't know you unfollowed them. They were part of a batch of 200 that you unfollowed. Then you kind of rediscover them and follow them again. You may have just accidentally walked into a violation of the rules called follow churn. So be aware of the rule. Follow churn is prohibited. Don't do it intentionally. Put it that way. Well, folks, we've had a good time. Glenn, is there any closing remarks you'd like to make? We will do this again, and we will have, we'll have more panelists for one thing. Number two, now, by the way, this entire stream is on YouTube. When it gets done, it will have a YouTube address. We've gone about an hour and a half. That's a long time. We haven't, next time we do this, it'll be a lot more organized, okay? And we'll drill down and go into it in more detail and have a little better flow. But we wanted to kind of put it out there so you could quickly get it. If you've taken notes, you can come back to this chat room and you can scroll up and see the chat from a year ago if you're persistent enough. You can also watch this on YouTube. So I hope that you picked up little bits and pieces. You may have discovered some new ideas. You may have discovered something you thought was a great idea that upon more careful analysis, you may realize, whoops, I didn't mean to be doing that. And I hope you have benefited in some way because we want to help. I want to wrap it up. Glenn, any closing comments?
I just want to reiterate the value of your bio. And you recommended that they follow 5 people a day or 10. I think my recommendation would be several more than that. But follow, when you set a number for yourself, you're going to follow X number per day. Do it every day. If you limit yourself, just be sure to do it every day.
Consistently. Now, when we say 10, I would say you can safely follow 10 people a day. If you've got a brand new account, 10 would be a good recommendation. Now, as your account grows, you can go at some point, let's say you get 2,000 followers. Well, increase it to 12. Do that for a week, every day. Then the week after that, increase it to 16 or 18. But basically, establish a limit for yourself and stay within that limit. It would be better to take more time and not get in trouble because we need to keep our players on the field. We have to accept the fact that there's a headwind that we're running against. Okay, we're not living in a world of our own making here. Okay, though it is what it is, but it would be better to be less effective but consistent than to be highly effective and then penalized and thrown out of the game. If you're thrown out of the game, you're not helping the team. You can't play. You've been ejected. So let's stay out of trouble, but let's be bold, let's be aggressive, and let's help each other. Let's work as a team without reciprocal inflation being our goal. Our goal is to share the gospel message, of Jesus Christ, to share hope, to share encouragement, to make this world a little better than we came into it. And for many of us, Glenn, it's getting kind of in the fourth quarter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's way late in the fourth quarter.
You're at the 2-minute warning, aren't you?
I think I might be down to the last 20 seconds.
We want to see it happen in our own lifetime. We care about our grandchildren. We care about our family and future generations. But we can't let that be a hindrance to our effectiveness. I was driving through North Carolina, and you see these, this beautiful scenery, and you see this gigantic tree. Well, someone hundreds of years ago planted the seed, and they never saw what I saw. So we have to plant seeds that will last, that will take root, will grow and flourish, and it may be the future generations that ultimately reap the reward and the harvest for what we do. Glenn, thank you for taking your time today with us. Let's do this again. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, have a good one. Well, folks, this has been fun. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm sorry I can't keep up with all the chat. It's just I have many plates spinning on poles here. I'll do the best I can. We will do this again, and we will post the link to the YouTube video so that you can share this Twitter boot camp with your like-minded friends. And I appreciate each one of you for the contributions that you have made. One, by just being here. Number two, by inviting others, for sharing this with others in the future, and participating in the chat. Folks, this is what I live for, and you give me strength, and I really appreciate it. We'll sign it off right here on PJNet Live.